how a police officer, Joe Danforth, trained an NBA champion. Fred VanVleet's biological father, Fred Manning, was shot and killed because of a drug deal gone wrong in 1999. Fred Manning left behind 2 kids and his wife, Susan VanVleet. Susan had to find multiple jobs just to survive and provide to her family. She told CTV's W5 show that it was so hard to raise 2 black kids as a single white mother in her community because of racism. After 3 years, Susan ended up meeting a policeman, Joe Danforth. They ended up dating, and within a year, Susan and her 2 sons end up moving in with Joe Danforth with his 2 kids. Joe Danforth, prior to becoming a policeman, spent 6 years in the army. His army experience taught him how to discipline and raise his kids. Fred VanVleet told CTV's W5 show that it is like a boot camp living with Joe. This kind of discipline was his way off to keep him off the streets. According to USA Today, Rockford, Illinois is ranked number 8 of the most dangerous cities in America in 2019. An average of 1,588 crimes for every 100,000 people in Rockford. They had seen a lot of kids with so much potential get sucked right in by gangs or drugs or whatever. They didn't know how to get past it. Susan mentioned in her interview with the sports website Bleacher Report. Joe and Susan made sure Fred and his brother are eligible to play for AAU basketball, even though they have to pay all the fees and go in debts, because they can tell that Fred VanVleet has a talent when it comes to basketball. According to Bleacher Report, Joe would put Fred and his brothers to a basketball drills and workouts around 6 a.m. every day. You're not going to be average. Anyone can be average. You're going to be somebody, Joe told Fred while Fred is being lazy doing his workouts. Because of his work ethic, he beat different kinds of records in high school, such as all-time leading scorer in Rockford public school history. He also led his team to a 22 straight wins in high school and to their first ever semifinals Illinois tournament. All credits to Joe Danforth, who made sure Fred was in the right path. Fred had the best high school career in Rockford history, but there's no local Division I powerhouses giving him scholarship, such as University of Wisconsin or University of Illinois. As reported on Forbes.com, Fred got Bruce Weber's attention, the coach of Southern Illinois University. Bruce visited Fred's high school, which is Auburn High School, once, but the recruitment stopped there, and until now, Fred doesn't know why the recruitment stopped. Despite all of this, Fred ended up playing for Wichita State University. In his freshman year at Wichita State, Fred came off the bench and averaged 4.3 points, 1.8 rebounds, and 2.3 assists per game. Wichita Shockers shocked the world when they upset Gonzaga Bulldogs and Ohio State Buckeyes, which is the first and second seed of the tournament. But they lost to Louisville Cardinals in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament. The next season, Fred was finally plugged in the starting lineup of the team and averaged 11.6 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 5.4 assists per game. With Fred as the starting point guard of the team, the Wichita State Shockers ended the season with 31 wins and 0 losses. They entered the NCAA tournament and beat Cal Poly Mustangs in the second round, making it 35 straight wins. In the show first take, Stephen A. Smith, an ESPN analyst, bet the Wichita State to win it all. Wichita State, they were the first seed of the tournament, but they lost to the 8th seed Kentucky Wildcats led by Julius Randle. Fred missed the game-winning shot that could advance them to the next round. It was a heartbreaking loss for Fred, and realized their historic season has ended. During his junior and senior season, Fred improved his stats every year, where he broke school records such as most assists in Wichita State history It was 637 assists. Sadly for Fred, he didn't win any NCAA tournament while playing for Wichita State University. After graduating Wichita State University, the NBA draft was just around the corner. In the Sportsnet talk show Tim and Sid, Fred mentioned before the draft he had 18 NBA workouts in just 30 days. No analyst, sports website, or NBA mock draft predicted Fred VanVleet getting drafted. He ignored all critics and still hosted his own draft party. His sports agent, Brian Jerkis, received calls about Fred getting drafted in the second round. On Fred's YouTube channel, FVV TV, he mentioned that his agent, Brian, hoped that he would not get drafted. Instead, he advised Fred to play for Toronto Raptors and said, "Bet on yourself." As it predicted, Fred VanVleet was undrafted in 2016 NBA draft. In his speech after the draft party, he stated that he declined few $20,000 offers to play for NBA Development League affiliate team for a few years. He ended up playing for Toronto Raptors NBA Summer League, where he was guaranteed only 3 games. Fred ended up impressing the Toronto Raptors, and he was the last addition of the 15-man roster of the team. He signed a multi-year deal with Toronto Raptors for 2 years at $1.4 million. In his rookie year, he played 37 games and averaged 2.9 points, 1.1 rebounds, and 0.9 assists per game. He showed flashes of potential in his rookie year, especially when Kyle Lowry got hurt. Fred also played for 905 Raptors, where he played with his rookie teammate Pascal Siakam. Fred and Pascal led their team to NBA D-League 2017 championship. The following year, he doubled his stats and averaged 8.6 points, 2.4 rebounds, and 3.2 assists per game. He became a big part of a Toronto Raptors rotation, and by the end of the year, he was nominated of 6th Man of the Year. Fred resigned with the Toronto Raptors in agreed terms for 2 years on an $18 million contract in 2018 offseason. The 2018-2019 season was a great year for Fred. He averaged 11 points, 2.6 rebounds, 4.6 assists per game, and he started 28 games. Fred VanVleet was a major key piece of the championship run Toronto Raptors made in the 2019 playoffs. In the Eastern Conference Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks, Fred scored 21 points and made 7 out of 9 3-pointers and made the last push to win against the Bucks. The Toronto Raptors beat the Milwaukee Bucks in 6 games and advanced to NBA Finals. In Game 2 of the NBA Finals, Fred played a crucial defense against the sharpshooting Steph Curry. The Toronto Raptors used a scheme called the box and one defense, meaning Fred will follow Steph Curry wherever he goes, while his other 4 teammates will stay in their respective areas. His defense helped the Toronto Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors, and they became the 2019 NBA champions. Because of his defense and scoring, surprisingly, Fred VanVleet was second in voting for NBA Finals MVP. A very impressive career for someone who's supposed to play for NBA Development League for a couple of years. With all his success and accolades, Fred never forget his stepfather for helping him to be a better person and focus on his goals. If he had never come along, who knows what would happen to me? Fred reflecting about his life in an interview with Bleacher Report. From someone who hated 6 a.m. workouts with his stepfather to second in the NBA Finals MVP voting, Fred VanVleet became the biggest role model for Rockford community.